right, so our agents are completely clear, they're clean now, and we're going to start completely from scratch with the agents that we want to create. So the scenario that I'm going to focus on is just a much more beefed up version of the agents that we just created, except these agents are going to have tools. What we're going to be doing is creating agents that work together to create a social media campaign for a product launch. And in doing that, there's going to be 3 different agents that we're going to need. One's going to be a product researcher. The other is going to be a marketing copywriter. And then the final one is going to be a social media strategist. And as I introduce each agent, I'll take you through what it is that they're actually responsible for. So to kick things off, we're going to go to create agent and we're going to create a name or provide a unique name for our agent. So for this first one, I'm going to call it product researcher and then create. And so collapsing what I have on the left so I can have more space here. I need to pass in some instructions and I want to also give it some files that it'll have access to, because the files that it'll have access to are going to be the actual products. In the repo for this video, I do have some system messages that you can use if you're following along in doing this as well on your end. So for the product researcher agent, I have a product research markdown file within the system messages folder. I'm just going to copy everything in here. But essentially what this agent is going to do from a instructions perspective is they're responsible for gathering and synthesizing product information to support marketing campaigns. And so they need to extract the key details from the provided product documentation, and then that needs to be presented in a very clear manner. There's also some guidance in here on what sort of information that it should provide. And so I do recommend, if you're more curious to know how a system message should come together in building something this way, do take a look through that. I've already copied it, so I'm going to paste that over in the instructions, as you can see that it's there. And then the next thing that we want to do is provide it with some tools. So in the repo itself, I have a products folder, and within this product folder, I have 5 different products that are in here. So if we focus on the noise canceling wireless earbuds, in here, I have the product information such as the overview, the key features, technical specifications, the pricing, what's included in the box, and the warranty and support. This format is consistent across all 5 products. Of course, the content changes based on the product itself, but the categories of what's in here is going to be the same. We're going to actually upload all 5 of these. So back here in the Foundry portal, under the Tools section, we're going to select Upload Files. And so what we need to do is create a vector index for these files. And so you can leave create a new index as it is, and then you can rename it if that is helpful for you. So if I just want to rename mine products, or if I want to be more specific, these are Contoso Electronics products. And then you can either drag or drop your files, or you can select browse for files. If you're curious to know which files are supported, you can use any of the extensions that are listed here. We do ask that your files are under 200 megabytes and then a maximum of 2 million tokens with a limit of 1,000 files. So this supports a lot. So I'm going to click browse for files, and then in my products folder, I'm just going to select all of those, and then those are going to upload. In the event when you go to upload these, if any of these fail, if you scroll to the right, there will be a refresh or retry button. And if you want to delete any of these, you can select the trash icon. So from here, I'm going to select attach. All right, so now that has been attached, and there's nothing else that we need to do here per se beyond clicking save. So we'll save this agent, and then we'll go on to create the next one. So clicking back, we're going to click create agent, and then this next one is going to be called Marketing Copywriter. So we'll create that. This is also why we deleted the other ones, because this name was going to be the same as the other one. So heading back to the system messages for the marketing copywriter. So this one is responsible for creating compelling campaign messaging that drives engagement and conversions. So it takes what came from the product researcher, and then it creates the marketing copywriting. Really, it's going to be these key items that we have in here for what it develops, such as the theme or the concept, the tagline, the headlines, the value prop, the key messages, the body, the call to action. And it's up to that social media strategist to extract this information and come up with the social media strategy. So the copywriter, the marketing copywriter, they're not creating the social media content. They are the team that creates the vision for marketing of how this product gets marketed. That's a very key important distinction here. So putting the instructions for that in the instruction section. And then I mentioned that I also want to give this agent a tool as well. So back in the repo, I have a Contoso Electronics branding brand guidelines. And so this is going to be the guidelines that we want that marketing copywriter agent to follow. It needs some level of guidance to know how to emulate that brand voice for Contoso Electronics. And so that's what this guidance is. And so essentially what it should do is reference what's in here when it's coming up with its marketing message. So what we need to do for that is come down to the tools section. We're going to upload files. We're going to create another index. This is going to be Contoso Electronics branding. And then we're going to add that file. So coming to the brand guidelines, this one is going to upload. Okay, that's been successful. So we have our vector index here. We have the file that's in here. We're going to click attach. And once that has been successfully indexed, it'll be attached to the agent. So great, we have 2 agents now. And each agent has a file search tool that's been added to it. In case you're curious as to what other tools you can add, if you were to select add in the tool section, these are the tools that we have available. What we've been using is our file search tool, but in addition to that, you can use Code Interpreter, there's Azure AI Search, you can ground with Bing, or you can do some web search. So if you want to give your agent the ability to browse the web for whatever necessary reason, you can do that. There's computer use, there's working with Fabric, there's SharePoint, and then there's some browser automation tasks that you can have in here. Okay, save this one. And then there's one final agent that we need to create, and that's going to be the social media strategist. So back over in the system messages, we have a social media strategist system message. And so what this agent is responsible for is creating the campaign messaging to be optimized for each of the social media platforms that Contoso Electronics posts their content. They only use Instagram, they use X, and then there's also TikTok as well. And then within here, there's some guidelines for each platform that we ideally want the agent to follow when it's coming up with its campaign. We also have information on here about how to do the content calendar and how we want that structured. There's engagement tactics, there's some visual content recommendations. So again, I do recommend that you take a look at what we have here in these system messages if you want an idea of how to craft a strong system message. So I'm going to take everything that I have in here and let's create a new agent. This one is social media strategist. We'll click create. And then we're going to add that instruction into there. There's no tools that are going to be used for this one. So this one is just going to be as it is, and we're going to click save. So we now have 3 agents created. If I go back, I can view all 3 agents. We have a product researcher, a marketing copywriter, and a social media strategist. I'm going to expand the menu on the left-hand side because we're going to head back to those workflows section, and we're going to open back up that workflow that we started with. So in here, I'm going to go to the first invoke agent mode node, which is the marketing analyst from before. We're going to swap out what we had here for the new agents that we've created. So selecting that marketing analyst one, where we have the option to select an agent, this one's going to be the product researcher. So we're going to kick things off with the product researcher that goes and looks for the Contoso product that we want to create a social media campaign about. There's nothing else that we need to change in here. We're going to leave everything as is, and we're going to click done. Then for the next one, the product researcher then hands things off to the marketing copywriter one. So that's correct. and we're going to click done. And then the final agent that gets to have some fun is going to be the social media strategist. And then we're going to click done. And then that's it. There's nothing else here that we need to set up in terms of having this flow happen. So let's see what happens from here. We'll click save. And now we can select preview. And what I want to do is ask the agents in this workflow to create a social media campaign for the Contoso Electronics noise canceling wireless earbuds. So what should happen before I kick this off is that the product researcher should do its due diligence to check if such a product exists in the products that are available. And if so, it should extract that key information and then pass over that synopsis to the marketing copywriter agent, who then comes up with the marketing copy for this product, who then passes everything over to the social media strategist, who puts together the entire campaign summary for us. So let's go ahead and submit that. And because we have some tool calls happening, you may see that this takes a little bit more time, but it does still move relatively quickly. On the right-hand side in the preview, we do get the output from the product researcher, and right now that's what it's on right now. All right, so I do see that the product researcher is doing its work to see what's going on in there. Okay, so we now have the marketing copywriter that has done some work on its own in terms of what it is that we're looking for from that particular agent. And finally, yeah, we have the work from the social media strategist as well. So it looks like we're in a really good position. And if you want to take a look at the overall flow of how this conversation has unfolded, if you go to traces, this is where you can come in and see the conversation threads. So if I go to the very top one, that's the most recent one that we have. So we first start things off with what was input from the user, which was to create a social media campaign for the wireless earbuds. And the initial output that we got is from the researcher agent. The next agent that then kicked things off is going to be the copywriter agent. So let's get their message that we have here. So it accepted what came in from the product researcher agent, and then it gives some guidance on how to refine that messaging itself. And then finally, we have the actual campaign social media posts from the social media strategist. So what we could do from here is continue to iterate on what it is that the agents are actually capable or responsible for doing, because right now it seems like there's a little bit of mix up on who should be doing what. Ideally, we really want the product researcher just to research products, to pass that information over to the marketing copywriter, and the marketing copywriter who passes over the central theme and the branding and voice of Contoso Electronics should pass over to the social media one, who then comes up with the entire social media campaign. So there's definitely some improvements that we could make if we wanted to. I'm going to close out of this.